campaign manager, and she was involved. But just like she can't bring back jobs, she can't produce. I'm sorry.
So let me say a word about the climate crisis, because nobody's talking about it, and I think that's more important actually than Donald Trump's fantasy here. So the science is telling us now, that we are facing month after month now new all-time world records for setting heat records for these months. We've had fires raging across the West Coast. We have established drought in the Southeast. We've just had major floods in southern Louisiana, many other areas of the country. And the science is telling us we can expect as much as 9 feet of sea level rise as soon as 2050. This is the most recent study published by James Hansen. So we do have a climate emergency. We need to move on this now. We need politicians and elected leaders who in fact are accountable and responsible to the American people, who are not being paid by the fossil fuel industry to either deny the climate science in Donald Trump's case or in Hillary Clinton's case, to be promoting fracking, which is as deadly actually as coal. Coal, which Donald supports, is phasing itself out. It's no longer economically viable, but Hillary Clinton is initiating a whole new generation of destructive and unconscionable fossil fuel infrastructure now by promoting fracking, which she did as the Secretary of State. She had a whole office to promote fracking around the world. Her transition director, Ken Salazar, is himself a big booster for fracking. So I'd say for those who care about the climate, it's really important now for us to step up to the plate and for us to do like the indigenous people at Standing Rock Sioux Nation Reservation, who stood up for what is essential. We need to actually stand up now, not buy into this lesser evil mythology, and insist on the substantive policies we need now in order to ensure that that we have a climate and a planet to be here for our kids. Thank you.
Used against him, but I like to remember what Michelle Obama said in her amazing speech at our Democratic National Convention. When they go low, we go high. And Barack Obama went high, despite Donald Trump's best efforts to bring him down.
Mr. Trump, you can respond, then we're going to move on to the next segment.
I would love to respond. First of all, I got to watch, in preparing for this, some of your debates against Barack Obama. You treated him with terrible disrespect. And I watched the way you talk now about how lovely everything is and how wonderful you are. It doesn't work that way. You were after him, you were trying to, you even sent out, or your campaign sent out, pictures of him in a certain garb, very famous pictures, I don't think you can deny that. But just last week, your campaign manager said it was true. So when you try to act holier than thou, it really doesn't work. It really doesn't. Now, as far as the lawsuit, yes, when I was very young, I went into my father's company, had a real estate company in Brooklyn and Queens, and we, along with many, many other companies throughout the country, it was a federal lawsuit, were sued. We settled the suit with no admission of guilt.
Oh, sure.
It was very easy to do, but they sued many people. I notice you bring that up a lot, and I also noticed.
On the issue of race, I think it's very important to acknowledge the transformative role of the Black Lives Matter movement, of people, particularly young people in our communities, who are standing up for the justice that they deserve, who are standing up peacefully, who are standing up to say not one more death, not one more unjustified and violent death at the hands of police. We see case after case and videotape after videotape of these absolutely heart-wrenching stories. It is time, I think, to acknowledge the very powerful role the Black Lives Matter campaign is playing here. Unlike the Democratic Party, which put out a secret memo to just like give them a nod and a pat on the back, but be sure you don't actually make concessions or take their suggestions. In fact, they are leading the way forward. As young African Americans led the way forward during the civil rights movement, they're making an inordinate contribution now to the future that we can have together as a peaceful, just society that gets past this crisis of racist violence.
Secrets are being stolen. So my question is, who's behind it and how do we fight it? Secretary Clinton, this answer goes to you.
Well, I think cybersecurity, cyber warfare will be one of the biggest challenges facing the next president, because clearly we're facing at this point two different kinds of adversaries. There are the independent hacking groups that do it mostly for commercial reasons, to try to steal information that they then can use to make money. But increasingly, we are seeing cyber attacks coming from states, organs of states. The most recent and troubling of these has been Russia. There's no doubt now that Russia has used cyber attacks against all kinds of organizations in our country, and I am deeply concerned about this. I know Donald's very praiseworthy of Vladimir Putin, but Putin is playing a really tough, long game here. And one of the things he's done is to let loose cyber attackers to hack into government files, to hack into personal files, hack into the Democratic National Committee. And we recently have learned that, that this is one of their preferred methods of trying to wreak havoc and collect information. We need to make it very clear, whether it's Russia, China, Iran, or anybody else, the United States has much greater capacity. And we are not going to sit idly by and permit state actors to go after our information, our private sector information or our public sector information. And we're going to have to make it clear that we don't want to use the kinds of tools that we have. We don't want to engage in a different kind of warfare, but we will defend the citizens of this country. And the Russians need to understand that. I think they've been treating it as almost a probing. How far would we go? How much would we do? And that's why I was so shocked when Donald publicly invited Putin to hack into Americans. That is just unacceptable. It's one of the reasons why 50 national security officials who served in Republican administration have said that Donald is unfit to be the commander-in-chief. It's comments like that that really worry people who understand the threats that we face.
Mr. Trump, you have 2 minutes in the same question. Who's behind it? How do we fight
I do
it?
want to say that I was just endorsed, and more are coming next week. It'll be over 200 admirals, many of them are here, admirals and generals endorsed me to lead this country. That just happened, and many more are coming, and I'm very proud of it. In addition, I was just endorsed by ICE. They've never endorsed anybody before on immigration. I was just endorsed by ICE. I was just recently endorsed 16,500 Border Patrol agents. So when Secretary Clinton talks about this, I mean, I'll take the admirals and I'll take the generals any day over the political hacks that I see that have led our country so brilliantly over the last 10 years with their knowledge, okay? Because look at the mess that we're in. Look at the mess that we're in. As far as the cyber, I agree to parts of what Secretary Clinton said. We should be better than anybody else, and perhaps we're not. I don't think anybody knows it was Russia that broke into the DNC. She's saying Russia, 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 but maybe it was. I mean, it could be Russia, but it could also be China. It could also be lots of other people. It also could be somebody sitting on their bed that weighs 400 pounds, okay? You don't know who broke into DNC, but what did we learn with DNC? We learned that Bernie Sanders was taken advantage of by your people, by Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Look what happened to her. But Bernie Sanders was taken advantage of. That's what we learned. Now, whether that was Russia, whether that was China, whether it was another country, we don't know. Because the truth is, under President Obama, we've lost control of things that we used to have control over. We came in with the internet, we came up with the internet, and I think Secretary Clinton and myself would agree very much. When you look at what ISIS is doing with the internet, they're beating us at our own game, ISIS. So we have to get very, very tough on cyber and cyber warfare. It is a huge problem. I have a son. He's 10 years old. He has computers. He is so good with these computers. It's unbelievable. The security aspect of cyber is very, very tough, and maybe it's hardly doable. But I will say we are not doing the job we should be doing. But that's true throughout our whole governmental society.